Hello, my beautiful Moglets. So I wanted to talk a bit about the podcast yesterday. I don't even know where to begin, to be honest. I really don't feel like I was a massive part of it, honestly. I was so nervous, you have no idea. Like, not only because this is live, and if I embarrass myself, which it felt like I did with every sentence, that's going to live on forever. So there was that. Also, I gotta say, chat was not helping with their wake up Moga comments. It's cool, but like there were definitely a lot of times I tried to speak, but apparently I'm not very good with, finding an opening. There are 7 people there, and then sometimes I try and say something and then someone else would start talking like immediately at the same time. And whether it's just being submissive or polite or whatever you want to call it, I'm the one that's backing down and let them speak. And that's just how I am. That's just what I wanted to get out of the way. I would have liked to speak more. I just didn't find too many good openings. So I think if I'm going to do this again, it would have to be with less people. Like I would be much more comfortable with like maybe 4 total, And then of course being right next to YD Sama, which was kind of judging me a little bit for being a lowly, which is fair. And then we got to the part where we were talking about what got us into the game. My reasons were pretty much the same as everyone else's. I have pretty much the same reasons as them, the art and animations. I really like the animations as well. I wish we had more inventory space, if I can say that. Yeah, this was not the topic at all, and I got called out immediately by New, saying, well, we kind of just introduced this thing that helps that a lot.
Update, where you could reforge your, you could like turn
yeah,
them into cubes.
yeah.
That can help.
I
feel like that helps
guess.
a lot. No?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I haven't gotten too much into that yet. This is pretty cringy for me, and I even said that when they first introduced the system that it should help a lot with inventory space. I still think though that more inventory space would be good, because even when you can, transfer all those things into the cores that go into the separate inventory spots, after playing for almost 2 years now, there is a lot of gear I have that is iffy, that I just don't really have the stuff to raise right now and know if it's going to be garbage, and if I want to, throw it into conversion just to get those stones. Thankfully that didn't last too long, but yeah.
Any favorite units, anybody?
Yes.
Do
Judge
you
Keeson.
play for functionality or for the personality of the units? So you can back it up.
Both. I mean, probably more functionality. I just really like chaining her S2 and S3 together. So, the AoE from S2, boom, S3, reduce their cooldowns. Champion Zerato also comes in a close second. Mostly for functionality, I guess. I mean, she is the one I gave all of those arena stones to get her up to triple S. So I think that's fair. And then this moment happened.
I'm pretty much 100% just for fun sort of person.
Yeah, this is really awkward, right? The silence.
7 people there and like a full 5 seconds of nothing. YD was asking who doesn't have RB. Everyone raised their hands and I just had to scream, I don't, because I can't raise Moglet-Chan's hands.
Who here doesn't have RB in this,
I don't have.
I don't. No one does, it looks like. So next topic was who is the most overpowered unit in the game. I kind of blurred out RB. I still do think that, but I also do agree with YD. He was saying that there are no overpowered units. And yeah, RB, there are a lot of counters in the meantime, but I still think the fact at least where I am down in silver RTA, so my perception might be a bit different than higher level players, but he is always the one getting pre-banned, and often I see double pre-ban. So I'm pre-banning, the enemy is pre-banning. And that has to say something, even though there are a lot of options to counter him. A lot of people don't necessarily have them built and ready to rumble. Sky King said something I really agree with.
I'll be honest, rather than being a unit being overpowered, I think the one artifact I hate the most is Abyssal Crown, probably still. I think that's like Abyssal Crown on Bazaar is probably one of the most toxic things I can run into.
Yes, I also hate Abyssal Crown so much because of how RNG it is. I mean, it's not guaranteed to happen, and you don't even know it's coming, I guess, until you're up there, and then you can just assume all Bazaars have Abyssal Crown.
Even though you miss, you can still get that stun.
I disagree. I just
think so?
my second Abyssal Crown. I disagree.
It's because
with
he uses a Abyssal Crown. That's why.
So you actually have it. Oh, okay.
Fair enough. So the next topic was buffs versus nerfs. For those that don't know, Epic 7 has stopped nerfing people and just buffing the weaker ones to try and get up to the stronger ones, I didn't say too much about it. I believe Mango was more on the side that, yeah, small nerfs are fine.
One of the things I wanted to ask about what you guys thought was, speaking of overpowered things, how do you feel about the no nerf situation? You don't need to nerf somebody into the ground, just minor things like lowering a Vildred's damage by 7% or something.
Dude, look what they did to my boy. ML Aura, dude. They made him vanish for such a long time.
Why do you give some examples of some extreme nerfs that I guess we don't want to see again? And I totally agree with that as well. I'd be perfectly fine if they just kept buffing and didn't nerf anyone, because ultimately a buff to one unit is a nerf to another, just non-directly. But I think perhaps most people wouldn't see it like that. Like, you know, if Lilibet, for example, got buffed and got more speed or more damage or whatever, then she could more easily take care of Arbiter Vildreds. That would be a slight nerf to Arbiter Vildred, for example. You know, if she's easier to build and can consistently always one-shot him, even in, you know, average gear, which, I mean, she has gotten buffs like that before, so maybe she can in the meantime. I haven't personally tried, that's off topic now, but it's just an example. Then yeah, I think that's perfectly fine, especially because it only will ever affect PvP scenarios. All the dudes you use for PvE will only get better because they're not facing off against other buffed units. The next topic was pretty much the opposite. Who is the weakest unit? The topic kind of went to Haste because chat was going crazy about Haste, saying Haste needs buffs. Sky King makes another really good point talking about ML Leo, because he does have a unique ability, his bomb ability, but he's just not viable anywhere for anything. And yeah, that was a good point.
How do you even use him? Like, you put the bombs on and then you sit there silently and you wait.
We kind of jumped onto a different topic here, but I wanted to point out another thing YD said, talking about sort of the arena meta and how tanky or bruiser type units are way stronger than offensive units. So bruisers and tankers can be way tankier than offensive units can be offensive.
Because I used this cleave team, and then it only did like 15k damage to an ML Haste, right? Which has 1.4k defense. My Ludwig has 1.3k defense. Accidentally, you don't even gear for it. It's just there. So it's so easy to get that amount of defense. So that goes to show how strong the defensive stats are in this game.
So then we got onto the topic of what to do with Moonlight duplicates. The only thing I could really think of is exchanging 3 dupes for a ML selector, or 2 for a random hero, then 1 for like 1,000 mystic medals. And of course I'm talking about 5-star Moonlight duplicates. I don't know if that's too generous or not generous enough, but of course a lot of the other people had pretty much the same idea, so I didn't really say much about this either. Next topic, which I think was the most important, and they actually didn't include in the talking points, so I had nothing really prepared, or I didn't really get to think about it too much, but Molagoras and the lack of them. Obviously this is a big complaint that we don't have enough, along with energy and gold. But yeah, again, by the time it kind of got my turn to speak, everyone had pretty much said all the suggestions that you can really think about. And yeah, I just pretty much agreed with everyone.
Some sort of like RTA shop, same way normal arena works.
Sky King though had another good idea with an RTA shop where you can buy, you know, like a Molagora per week or 2 Molagoras or whatever. And I thought that was a really good idea, because still, even with that very, very sexy Spectre Tenebria skin, you know, if you can hit Master in RTA, I don't have that much of a drive to play it, to be totally honest. I still do every now and then, and it is fun and exciting, but like, I'm a very rewards driven person as well, so if there were Molagoras, then yeah, there'd be much more of a reason to play.
Actually, Mogwai, did you want to have some input on this topic?
Nah, I think everyone else pretty much covered it. Like, yeah, I totally agree with the 4 stars requiring stigma, at least for like maybe half of their skills. Like maybe the last one, the last upgrade could be still Molagoras, but that would definitely help, because there are lots of good 4 stars, you know. And I personally like hold off raising them because it's like, oh, well, I still have 5 stars that need Molagoras. So I actually did get to speak a little bit more because New transitioned into a similar but different topic where he was asking if the meta would change if, you know, everyone had more Molagoras and people could raise more units. Would there be more diversity?
Very similar to what you just brought up, Kwadi, is that if Molagora, let's say everyone had a lot more Molagora, do you think that World Arena would be a lot more wide variety, like a wide cast of heroes to use, and not as stagnant as it is right now?
I don't think it would be that much different, honestly, because ultimately, like, it doesn't take a super long time to max out someone's Molagoras if you have a little bit already. I mean, it would probably change a little bit, you know, there'd be more experimentation for sure. But like overall, I don't think it would be massively different, because there is sort of a set in stone meta, and there's like a meta for a reason. And people are going to use the characters that win the most, I would say, regardless of if they have a lot to choose from.
I agree with that.
So my opinion on this was that it wouldn't change that much. You know, there are like a handful of really, really good units where if you have them, you're going to want to raise them and use them. There might be more indifferent units, but in my opinion, all that would really happen if everyone had Molagoras is that like the new heroes would be maxed faster. We'd see a lot more Selines already instead of them just being unmolagored right now because, you know, everyone struggles with Molagoras. So I honestly don't change my mind on like what I was generally saying. I think there would be a little more variety, but only because people are raising units faster and more. And you know, the experimenters, the nerds out there have access to try out these units more and more and maybe even influence the meta. So it would change a little. There's always gonna be like a handful, like a top 10, units that you're gonna wanna use, which is always changing. And I do say there's a meta set in stone. I didn't mean that it's never gonna change. It's always changing. What I meant is that it's temporarily set in stone, which is kind of a complete contradiction, but it's hard to argue that you're not seeing the same handful of units in a lot of RTA and even arena battles. SSB, Arbiter Vildred, Cdom, Bazaar, the meta, the staples. I don't think that would change very much. Then YD disagreed that there is a set in stone meta.
I don't agree that the meta is set and dead now though. Like every time I play, someone surprises me with something stupid. I think that with more Molas, we'll see even more of this.
So yeah, YD says with more Molagors, there will be more surprises. And yeah, technically more often, but again, in my opinion, it would simply speed up the process. So, instead of having a sort of top 10 heroes for like, 2 months and then transitioning and then, some of those top 10 get replaced by some others that, people have figured out, it would only take 1 month. So in essence, I totally agree. And of course, more Molagoras are gonna be helpful and cool for everyone anyway.
This might not be a popular opinion, but to me, it's like, there will always be there's always two groups. There's always that one group who will always follow the meta. You get more Molagoras, they're not going to spend it to try new units. They're always going to follow the people who set the meta.
In my opinion, Sky King hits the nail on the head here. He says there's always going to be two types of people, one that follow the meta and ones that set the meta. And the ones that follow the meta, which is the majority of the player base, are not going to spend those extra Molagoras in trying new heroes. They're going to try them in building the meta.
It's also like the more Molas you have, like the faster you can see units come online in World Arena. Like, look, Selene has been out for how long already? Like, there's a lot of people that just don't have the Molas to invest in.
YD also touches on what I actually just said. And yeah, I totally agree with that as well. And then we moved on to another topic. And then YD said this.
But I think we have to address the elephant in the room. Okay, you can see Twitch chat. We're not talking about the anime girl with a deep voice here. But we're talking about stamina. Okay. This is...
Sky King is losing his shit over there. But yeah, the next topic is about energy. So here's where my one shining moment comes in. There was a lot of talk about energy, leafs, and if they should make leafs recover all energy or just the current 80. So there was a lot of discussion around this, probably a good 15 minutes. I was just absorbing it because there are problems that get introduced if they make leafs full refill. The problem being the heavy spenders and the hoarders that already have so many leafs will benefit way more than people who had just used all their leafs right before the buff, right? And he was saying that this would create a much bigger gap between the spenders and the free-to-play players. And YD was pretty much saying, yeah, well, it would be good for everyone. Yes, the spenders would benefit more, but so would the free-to-play players because, ultimately at the end of the day, everyone gets more energy. And I actually agreed with that statement.
Sure, the gap may get further, but at least, the free-to-play can still play the game.
And here's my shining moment. It feels pathetic to be so proud of it, but here we go. Okay. I have an idea. What we should do is make a new leaf, a different leaf, and stop giving out the green leaves. So then everyone will use all their green leaves as usual, and we can give out the new leaves for full refunds.
Oh, okay. Thoughts on that, guys?
That's actually...
Yeah. So you want to try Q?
That's actually not a bad idea.
Sorry. And then I was like, wow, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, let's make it mangoes. Can we make
that
new currency?
But then everyone in chat is going to start saying like, man, another currency in Epic 7. We're just getting all these new currencies. But no,
yeah, but the
like
green
that.
leaves will be gone eventually, so
yeah.
I mean, I did think about that before saying anything, but they will be gone at one point. Just stop giving out the old leaves.
Yeah. So it's just like if people have leaves, you can still use them, and still you get the 80.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Once you get the new currency, right? Those currencies will give you the full energy refill. Like if you
right.
So everyone starts at the same place now. If you do get those new currencies for the full energy.
Are you writing that down, Desperado?
We solved it.
Oh, that's a great
What-
idea. That's really
One thing
So then we come to the last big topic of the day, and that's on gear rolling. I did have something to say about this. I'm not sure I presented it in the way I really wanted to. So news started with the topic of one-time only gears, like those you get from Abyss, those you get from the PvP shop. For the one-time gear especially, I guess there are like, technically you can get pretty much the same thing anywhere else, but like for a lot of the one-time gear, the subs, they start out as good, but then like how they roll, it can turn it almost useless. Of course, it can probably fit on someone, but like, as like, I'm a bit of a cleaver, a bit of a min-maxer as well, or I would like to be, but that's super hard here. And so like when the subs roll even, it's like, okay, cool, I can put that on a bruiser or whatever. They can use a health, they can use attack, but like when I'm trying to get the max damage, health, you know, or if it rolls into a lot of health, they're not going to need it. So Mingo also said something I totally agree with. Well, he had a little story here where there was a guy playing for like 3 days. He got super lucky summoning Arbiter Vildred. He got extremely lucky with gear rolls. They got so lucky that they had an Arbiter Vildred better than anything he has had since he's been playing from day one, you know. I mean, it's anecdotal, but it also does go to show how much RNG there is currently with gear rolling.
I think one of the biggest things they could do is increase the like the minimum rolls.
And yeah, like going from 4 speed base to 5 speed on a roll, that does hurt a lot. Sky King does hit on a good point. He says, while you can get lucky with those free one-time gears, they can never be as good as the farmable gears. The ones you get from Hunt, for example, because the ones you get from Hunt, you can reforge into I-90s. And that is absolutely true. So I-90s will always be better than any free gear they ever give, or they always have a higher potential. But it's still incredibly difficult to get, firstly, a good piece and then good rolls, in my opinion. But yes. Oh yeah, there was one other topic, and that was on summoning. So whether there should be a pity for artifacts, because some people can get like 5 of the banner hero, but not their artifact, and they have to keep trying and trying and trying. And yeah, there were some ideas thrown around. I didn't add too much to this. But there were some solutions brought up, like have separate pities. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Everyone gave their outros. I've actually been recording here for longer than the stream is, so I don't want to say too much else. There was one other thing that we didn't touch on that was in my notes that I made a little note for. And that was make the ultimate unit using existing skills. And I guess I'll touch on that really quickly. I did put some thought into this, so I don't know, I kind of wanted to share it. And I actually don't know if S1 is legal in this hypothetical situation, but I chose Idle Form Tamarin's S1, you know, the AoE that removes buffs, gets a dual attack from the ally with the highest attack. Faithless Lydica's S2, she'd use that first, get combat readiness for herself, granting an extra turn, 25% for everyone else. And then Lilius's S3, so remove any debuffs if they're present, and push back the enemy's combat readiness. So this unit would be capable of extreme combat readiness manipulation, AoE damage because of Lilius's S3, dual attacks, and healing with Soul Burn because of Idle Form Tamarin's S1. So you'd build this hypothetical unit with an emphasis on speed, crit rate, and crit damage, paired with another hero, whoever, focused on attack firstly, because, you know, Lilius's S3 just takes the attack of the one with the highest attack and uses that for her AoE damage. Of course, as that hero would be a damage dealer, you would want them with some crit rate and damage too. But yeah, I think that would be a pretty OP unit, and I guess I just kind of wanted to share because I put some thought into it, but they never addressed that in the stream. And I think that'll pretty much do it. I want to thank the Epic 7 team and New Desperado, Mashu for putting all this together, and of course the other content creators there. On one hand, I feel like I wish I would have said more, but on the other hand, I did enjoy the discussions that the others brought up as well. And you know, besides a couple of awkward pauses here and there was always discussion going on regardless if it was from me or from one of the other content creators. So it was a nice stream all around in my opinion. But make sure to tell me what you think in those comments down below. Dropping a like on this video if you did happen to enjoy is always greatly appreciated as well. Thanks as always for watching, and until next time.